Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Will's Mountain Homestead. My name is Wendy, and today we are canning pumpkins. So it is a beautiful morning. It's about 60 degrees outside, and this guy weighed in at 16 pounds this morning. So we're going to try to get a full canner load of pumpkins done today. A couple things to keep in mind when you are canning pumpkins. It takes about 2¼ pounds to fill 1 quart jar of pumpkin. So keep that in mind whenever you're weighing your pumpkins to determine how many jars you're going to need. Now, with that being said, obviously we're going to be taking out the pulp from the inside along with the seeds and taking the rind off of the outer edge. And so that's going to be a little bit of a weight difference. So keep that in mind and let's get started. I'm using this book as a guide for how to can pumpkin. And the same principle applies to winter squash as well. So you could do the same steps with acorn squash, butternut squash, whatever you have that is considered a winter squash, you can do this same canning process with, according to the ball book. I am doing this whole process outside because I'm keeping the mess outdoors. So the easiest way to do this is get a really sharp knife, and we're using a cutting board. I also have a bowl of cold water, and when we're done cutting this in half, we're going to start scooping the seeds out, and we're going to place those in the cold water. That will help separate the goo from the seeds themselves. Okay, we are open. Open sesame. All right. Just move the 1/2 over. What we're going to do is scoop out all of this gooey part and then just in the seeds and put that in our bowl of water. Continue this process with both halves of the pumpkin, and as you can see in here, see how the seeds are starting to separate from this pulp? You can then pull this pulp out, compost it, or give it to your chickens. They love this. But these seeds, we're going to get all of this water is going to help get all of that gooey off the seeds. We're going to dry these out really well, and then I'll give you a good recipe to toast these, and then they'll store for a while in the cupboard then. Our pumpkin is hollowed out, so I brought out another pan. It's a deeper roasting pan, and we're going to take the rind off of this, and it can be a little difficult to do, so quite honestly, cut it into sections and then work in smaller sections of it. Okay, I've cut my pumpkin into smaller sections. That way I can clean it out just a little bit better with my smaller knife and get any of that residual pulp that's left, because I really don't want to can that. Okay, and then we're going to take the rind off. So we're going to get down and take this off. This is going to be a tedious process, so just take your time and do not cut yourself. Please do not cut yourself. So take that rind off of the entire pumpkin. Working in smaller sections is easier to manage, it's easier to hold it, and it's easier to get in and get all the crevices out. Once you have the rind off, what you're going to do is cut these into about 1-inch sections, like that. This is what we're canning right here, is this. And then just continue that until your pumpkin is completely finished. And it is going to be tedious and time consuming, but the end product is well worth it. This is all of the pumpkin that we cut up. And we have a little bit of the scrap left that needs to be composted, and then our seeds and goo. So it's time to go into the kitchen for the next step. At this time, get a large stock pot and get some water in it and get it boiling. And I also have my quart jars in the oven getting hot. And with pumpkin, you need to pressure can this. So put enough water into your pressure canner, turn the stove on to get the water warm. Because what we're gonna do, we're gonna take this pumpkin, we're gonna cook it for 2 minutes in the boiling water, and then we're gonna ladle it out into our hot jars, pour fresh boiling water over it, and then put it in our pressure canner. Our water is boiling right now, so we're going to take this whole pot of pumpkin and we're going to put it right into the boiling water. I always use water in my electric kettle to add to my jars once it is time to fill them with water. So get that going right now because we're going to pull our jars out and then fill them, and then we're going to be ready for our hot water. Our pumpkin is done cooking for the 2 minutes. So we are going to start ladling these into our jars. Now, we are not adding salt to this because I use this to make soup with, and we like to make a low sodium soup. Salt is optional. So for quarts, if you want to add, you can add a teaspoon of salt to this, but it is not necessary. Now I have a Presto canner, and mine will hold up to 7 quarts. So I'm hoping I have enough to fill my canner. And we're looking for 1 inch of headspace total. Take your fresh, hot, boiling water and pour it or ladle it into your hot jars. You want a 1 inch of headspace. And I usually do 2 jars at a time, and then I heat more water up to do the rest. Take your bubbling tool to get all of the air pockets out. And I had it at a 1 inch headspace when I started, but you can see that it did fall substantially. So what we're going to do is make sure you get all of these air bubbles out of here, because that will prevent it from sealing if you don't. Now, you do not want to puree this and can it as a puree. That is a no-no. So don't do that. You can it whole and then use it how you would want to later. Take your wet towel, go around the rims of this, of your jars. Make sure you get all the debris off, if you have any. Lids on. Finger tight. Don't crank down on them, or they will buckle. Alright, and into the pressure canner they go. My jars are in the pressure canner, so I'm going to put the lid on, let it vent for 10 minutes. And once that 10 minutes is over, I'll put my rocker on, and it's going to be at 15 pounds of pressure for myself because I am at a higher altitude. If you are canning pints, it's going to be 55 minutes. In quarts, it will be 90 minutes. I ended up with a strainer full of leftover pumpkin, so what I'm going to do is let this drain thoroughly. And then I'm going to put it on a cookie sheet with some parchment paper, and then I'm going to freeze this, and we'll just use it the same way we would as the canned later on. But don't throw it away if you have leftovers. This is considered blanched, so go ahead and freeze it and use it later. While we are pressure canning our pumpkin, we still have our seeds. So what we're going to do is get your hands in here, pull your seeds out, and put them on a paper towel. And try and get all of the pulpy bits off of it as you pull them out, okay? And then you're going to want to dry these thoroughly before we do anything to them to roast them. These are all the seeds that we are drying right now, just air drying. And then in here is a bowl of all of the inside bits. And we're going to give these to our chickens. So guys, really there is no waste because we composted the rind. This is going to the chickens. We're saving the seeds. And then we're canning and freezing the flesh. So, you know, there's ways to do and use a whole product versus throwing the seeds and stuff out because they are edible and they're very nutritious for you. So, don't waste it. To roast our pumpkin seeds, we need to make some type of a sauce to put the seeds in to marinate them a little bit before we roast them. So we have 3 tablespoons of butter that is melted. To that, we are going to add 1 teaspoon of, however you guys choose to pronounce that. I call it Worcestershire sauce, but it's however you say it. So 1 teaspoon of that into the bowl. And then 1/4 teaspoon of garlic salt. And 1/4 teaspoon of onion powder. And then we're going to give this a good mix. Woo! Sorry about that. Then we're going to give this a good mix before we put our pumpkin seeds in. And we're looking to have about 2 cups, which is about what I have, in with this mixture. Now, rule of thumb is the drier you can make your seeds, the crispier they're going to get. And they should last you for about 3 months after they have been roasted if you keep them in an airtight container. So just keep that in mind too. They're going to last you for quite a while. Now, parchment paper does work better to dry them on than paper towels, because you see what's happening is they're sticking onto the paper towel. So for future reference, use parchment paper or wax paper. Works better. Once everything is in the bowl, including your pumpkin seeds, make sure you mix it up really, really well. And at this time, preheat your oven to 250 degrees. Now this is more of a savory marinade for on these. Look on Pinterest if you're looking for other things. We've done cinnamon and sugar before too, and we like that as well. But this is our favorite. So, and again, it's personal preference, but Pinterest has a lot of ideas on different flavorings to use. Now I take my cooking spray and spray my pan with that before I dump this on. And then we're just going to put this on our baking tray, and then we're going to spread that out evenly. Try not to overlap it. And then we're going to bake this in the oven for 50 minutes to an hour. And you want them to start to turn brown and get crispy. So that's what you're looking for. So I check it after half an hour, and then I flip them. And then I start checking them again around 45 minutes or so. But I'll show you what they look like once they're finished. All right, we ended up with 7 quarts of pumpkin. And this is what our toasted pumpkin seeds look like. And these will probably be gone by the next 3 days, I would imagine. So, but these can be stored in an airtight container, and they can be stored for up to 3 months on the shelf. So hopefully you try this at home and let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.